Wanted to mention that it is the 1-year anniversary of the Covenant School shooting that occurred in my hometown of Nashville, Tennessee. 1 year ago today, 3 students and 3 workers at that school were murdered by a trans shooter who was then shot and killed by police officers from Metro Nashville Police Department responding to protect the other people there. We still don't know the full story of what motivated that trans shooter's decision to take all of these lives. And they have had a series of writings, been described as a manifesto, but it's a series of writings from her for a year now. And it's not been allowed to be discussed. And I just want all of you to think about this. Even in a red state like Tennessee, where I live, a crazy trans shooter who killed 6 innocent people, there has been virtually no discussion about what her motivations were or whether the trans identity might have in any way influenced or motivated her decision to take 6 innocent lives. I usually, Buck, as you well know, the motives of every mass shooter are released to everyone within 24 hours of their shooting. Even sometimes when you disagree with it being released, the full manifesto was at El Paso of the shooter at a Walmart, I think, in the El Paso area. Everybody saw that almost instantaneously. When the narrative is challenged or when favored groups on the left are involved, the story disappears. The same thing happened up in Waukesha. Black guy drives a car through a Christmas parade, killing 6, I think, there too, innocent people, mangling the bodies of many more. There's racist writings where he says that he wants to kill white people out there. Story pretty much vanishes. Joe Biden, to my knowledge, Buck, still never been to Waukesha, still never been to Nashville to help draw attention to these events.
If you were to work through what the political calculations are in holding back the manifesto, I think it makes it all pretty obvious what's going on here. Let's say for a moment that in the manifesto there is something along the lines of the uh, trans genocide that is underway, which the left will. I know you'll hear that term say, "Wait, what?" The left will talk about this. They will often also talk about the disproportionate violence that trans people suffer and all kinds of things to create this sense of there is a horrible evil that is underway against trans people. And if there's mention of that in the manifesto, which I think is very likely to be the case, again, I can't say because I don't know, because nobody knows, because we're not allowed to see it. And then also, if some of these states that have passed bills that are considered anti-trans in some capacity, whether it's, you can't use whatever bathroom you want, or you can't play in the sports team, or you can't. The big thing has been surgeries for minors, right? And there are
Yes.
states like Tennessee is trying to. And if there's mention of that, the problem is that the left has set up their current civil rights crusade is about transism, trans ideology, and if you have a case of a trans individual who is a terrorist and a terrorist motivated by the very rhetoric that they are using to try to bully people into silence about 12-year-olds taking hormone blocking drugs and having their breasts removed or whatever it may be, that causes a problem for the crusade, right? That causes a problem for the new civil rights struggle of this era. So I think that's why there's such a powerful opposition to the release of the manifesto. Because what other reason, if it were about privacy or concerns about, I don't know, specific details that could affect security or safety of people who are still living, whatever it may be, explain that, block out that
Yeah.
stuff, black out that stuff in the transcript. Maybe people would still have a problem with that, but at least you're moving in the right direction of transparency. To hold the entire thing back is completely inexcusable because this is one of those things where the public has a right to know. And on other instances of this is mass violence against children. She went in and
Yes.
shooting little kids. I mean, there's nothing more evil. It is not possible to do something more evil than what this person did. Maybe there's as evil, but there's not more evil than murdering small children. And Clay, you look at this, you say to yourself, they really expect us to forget about this? That's what we mean, meaning the manifesto. They expect, and let's be honest, I think they want us to forget about the whole thing. I think the left in this country wants us to just, the same way we're not supposed to think about the attempted mass assassination of congressmen back in 2018 on a baseball field in Alexandria, Virginia, by a guy who was shouting, "This is for health care," shot Steve Scalise, tried to kill Senator Rand Paul, and among others. We're supposed to forget about this as well.
Brett Kavanaugh, guy shows up to try to murder him at his house because he wants to change the Roe v. Wade ruling back to avoid Dobbs taking effect. I have been told that part of the writings involves her casing schools and deciding to attack this school because she thought there was less security there. It's a big national story. If someone who is going to shoot up a school considers schools based on the security that's there, I've said for some time, I think every school should have armed security in the entire country. That doesn't seem controversial to me. My kids went to a public school that has armed security. One of mine's still there. I've got two in private school now, but my kids were in public school through 6th grade. I want public school kids to have armed security. I want private school kids to have armed security. This seems like it would be an important detail if it's true that a mass shooter is doing a reconnaissance. Do you think it's a coincidence, Buck, that mass shooters never seem to go after, by and large, places with large groups of armed people in them, right? There aren't that many times where a police station is stormed by a mass shooter. Sometimes there's deranged people who decide to shoot at police stations. It happens. Most of the time, mass shooters go places where they know there is not armed security. They may be crazy, but they're surveilling it for that purpose. So I just think it's on the 1-year anniversary. Certainly for everybody who is recovering from that shooting, they have our thoughts, they have our prayers. We want them to recover to the best of their ability. And for people who lost family members, I cannot imagine how difficult a day like today, the anniversary, is to take you back into your mindset on that day. But for the larger American community out there, I think it's important that we know the full story and we know the full motivations. And so I wanted to make sure that we talked about it here because, frankly, I don't think you're going to hear very many media outlets even mention the 1-year anniversary or the fact that we still do not have the full basis upon which that trans shooter decided to act.
It's even worse. We don't even have an official declaration of motive from law enforcement.
Correct.
They won't even say the motivation was the following. They have a manifesto. They know.
Yes.
They won't tell us. Why won't they tell us? And it reminds me of the height of this kind of dishonesty before this incident, I think, was reached. You remember the Pulse nightclub shooting?
Oh, yeah.
With a Muslim guy who goes in, jihadist who goes in and he is killing all these people at a gay club. He's shooting them and he called in on a cell phone and they had the transcript of it. You remember the FBI released the transcript with blacked out words? And not only did they do that, you go back, people forget about this. I have to remind people of this. Clay, they blacked out words and everybody knew what the words were.
Yeah.
It was Allah. It was ISIS. It was Islam. All of that was removed from the transcript that was officially released under the Obama administration. And, because Islam, religion of peace, we're all supposed to say that was the declaration. I've never heard the people who are always saying Islam is religion of peace. I never heard them say once that Judaism or Christianity were religions of peace. Only Islam, which, just saying, I thought that was interesting in and of itself, right? Like, it's one thing if you want to claim that all religions are, but no, the only one we ever heard. But put that aside for a second. I'm not trying to get too deep into that conversation. They blacked out things from a transcript for no reason other than politics that were so obvious that every person with a fifth grade reading level knew exactly what was blacked. Why would they do that? You know, they're trying to control public information. They're trying to control public perception, and they do this with manipulating emotions around the most extremely emotional events, which are things like this: mass killings by deranged maniacs. So, but if they're willing to do that, if they're willing to black out things in a transcript and there's an official call, or not official, but there's a call that was made to the police, they'll lie to you about anything. That's the point. They'll lie about anything.
1 year anniversary. How many major media shows, counting this as one, will even mention the fact that we still don't have the full transcript today? What percentage?
Oh, I mean,
We might be the only ones.
and we might, maybe one of our friends, on talk radio will mention it later, or that's it though. It won't get any mention. I won't get. I don't even think it'll get mentioned on. Maybe it'll get mentioned on Fox. I don't even think it'll get mentioned on Fox. We'll see. 800-282-2882. We're opening up those lines. Get to your calls here in just a moment. Credit card debt wreaks havoc on household budgets, but it doesn't have to be that way. American Financing can provide a solution. They're saving homeowners just like you an average of $854 a month by tapping into their home's equity to pay off high interest debt. Mortgage rates are now in the fives, lower than they've been in some time. All it takes is a 10-minute call to their salary-based mortgage consultants to find out how much they can save you. Think about what you could do with an extra $854 a month. That's $10,000 a year. Call American Financing today. They never charge any upfront fees. You may even be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. American Financing's number is 800-777-8109. That's 800-777-8109. Or visit AmericanFinancing.net, AmericanFinancing.net, NMLS 182334, NMLSConsumerAccess.org. APR for rates in the 5 start at 6.6% for well-qualified borrowers. Call 800-777-8109 for details about credit costs and terms.